Welcome everyone to the GIVEdsm nonprofit user demonstration. You are our sneak peek audience as we are unveiling the long-awaited 2.0 version of our GIVEdsm platform. We'll be doing a run-through kind of demonstration today, and so what we'll start with is I'll share a little bit more about. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide so I can give you my agenda for today. I'll be providing a intro and a walkthrough of our an intro and kind of the purpose behind our platform. And then Matt from Given will be providing a walkthrough of the functions. And finally, Sarah on our marketing department team will be talking about sort of how we plan to more broadly launch this platform into the greater Des Moines community. So thanks again for joining us. I will just kind of start by sharing a little bit more about why we have this GiveDSM platform and why it was created, a little bit of the history. So going back a few years, we worked with the DSM Hack program, an organization to launch a website that would be kind of like a Pinterest meets Amazon for nonprofit funding needs here in central Iowa. Really, the goal is to help us live our mission of connecting donors with causes they care about. And we know that there are so many funding needs in the community beyond what we can fund through our competitive grants. And so GiveDSM is really a solution to help nonprofits of any size in central Iowa post their funding needs and get them out to our fund holders, but also really the audience of the greater Des Moines community. And so we saw a lot of great success in encouraging organizations to post those needs. The kind of needs that you'll see on GiveDSM are timely funding needs. So sometimes you have a more project-based funding need and there's a quick deadline of needing that funding. So we'll see those kinds of posts. We'll see posts for general operating support. I would say every organization is encouraged and welcomed to request general operating support on the GiveDSM platform. We know how important that is to fulfill your missions. And then we also have a function for you to list a capital need or capital campaign. So we used to keep a whole separate database on, wasn't a database, it was, let's be real, it was a Word document about all of the capital campaigns that were happening in central Iowa. And so GiveDSM is really another way that we could provide a more dynamic and interactive solution so that not only our fund holders and the general public, but also other foundation heads can look and see as they're opening up their grant cycles, what is happening out there. So let's see, just in the chat, if you wouldn't mind letting us know, are you an existing user of GiveDSM or are you new to the platform? Have you posted funding needs in the past, or is this kind of your first pass? So seeing a lot of existing users coming through, which is great. So we might be able to skip some of the information. Oh, we've got a first timer, so that's fantastic as well. So we'll make sure that you have enough background, but what we're going to do next is have Matt walk through the new system. So one thing I wanted to highlight is that if you are an existing user or your organization already has projects that are on the GiveDSM site, when we're moving to the 2.0 site, those projects are going to stay on there. You're not going to have to redo them. So that's exciting. We don't like to give you any more work than you have to because we know you've got a lot on your plate already. So that's an important thing to note. And we also will ask you to reach out to our team at givedsm@desmoinesfoundation.org as you are navigating this new site for the first time. If you notice things, you want to provide feedback, I'll provide that email address at the end again, but really help us make the site better and learn from how you are using it. And then I just wanted to share that there will be a login function on this site, just as there is on the other sites. But the cool thing is we can have more than one user per organization. So that's an enhancement that I know many of you have been looking for. And perhaps your organization has a profile, but that person is no longer with the organization. We can do some updates, and we have team members who can help you get that started. So I guess we'll go through and let me invite Matt to start. There's a ooh and an ah. This is what we'll see when we launch the new homepage for GiveDSM. And the URL is givedsm.org, correct? It's the same as it was in the past. And so when we will launch the refreshed version, this is what you'll see. And Matt, I'll just invite you to start walking us through the functions of this site. And I might interject, as I tend to do, at a few points. And I'll turn off my camera and audio. And Sarah, I invite you to do the same. So we'll just focus on Matt as he takes us through.
Great, thank you, Brianne. Can you hear me okay? Is the audio sound all right from my end?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for the introduction. And I would like to share my screen here. It says you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, and can you guys see this? Brianne, you stole my thunder there by showing it on your slide first, but that's good. It's so fun to look at.
You know, I like to have something just in case we have technical difficulties. That's why that's there. So the big reveal.
Yes, no, that's always a good idea and always good to have that smart backup. Well, I'm excited to be on this session today and to talk to everyone here. I see some familiar names on the attendees list and look forward to folks watching this recording in the future as well. I'm going to walk you through some of the basic functions of the new GiveDSM site, or GiveDSM 2.0. And yeah, feel free to interject with additional comments or questions as we go through this as well. As you mentioned, Brianne, when the site goes live, the URL will be at givedsm.org. What we're looking at for our preview today is a test version of the site, so it has a slightly different URL at the moment. But once we go officially live with this later this month, it will be living at that main givedsm.org as well. When you go into the site, as Brianne mentioned, there is a login function, although visitors, of course, can come to the site and take a look at needs and opportunities and start to gather information from it without having to log in first. As a nonprofit user, you'll want to log in to make updates, and I'll show that process here in a second. But first, as you scroll down on the site, you can see the cards with the different funding needs or opportunities that are available on here. So similar to the current GiveDSM site, with a little nicer look and a little easier navigation, hopefully, as well. Fundamentally, these cards are the same as what's on the existing site in the sense that they provide information about your specific project or funding need. You can click on any of them to view more information. You can see each of them has a progress bar to show the dollars being raised for it as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more in another minute here. And as a user or visitor or donor on the site, it's very easy to find the different types of things that I'm interested in. I can click on this Giving Categories button, and I'll see some additional search filter options, right? So I can look at different categories of needs. I can look for different types of them. Brianne, you mentioned capital campaigns, for example, or there's also timely needs and general support. And I can also choose how I filter each of these as well. So when I'm looking at this test information at the moment, there's 261 current funding needs or opportunities on here. These are copied over from the existing site, plus with some test ones that we've been using for testing in the past few days. But if I was a donor who was interested in something specific, let's say I was interested in arts and culture, and I was specifically interested in learning about capital campaigns, I can select those options and search for it, and it'll show me the 8 current needs on here that happen to meet those particular criteria, for example.
Matt, I did want to cut in for a second to say one of the enhancements that you have in this search is the opportunity to search by the organization's name.
Yes.
And so that is, I think, significant for our nonprofit partners. Before, really, you were just able to kind of drill down through the field of interest. And so that'll be a great enhancement, not just relying on the categories to bubble up.
Yes, absolutely right. So I can also type in a nonprofit name here in the search for nonprofit field, and it will match those characters. So if I just wanted to search for any organization that probably was in Des Moines or anything that started with duh, I can see searching for that. It would filter these and pull up needs, for example, the 35 of them that happen to match that exact text. Obviously, they can type in your exact organization name. You'll see when we go to the nonprofit profile, if you have an organization name where you have a common acronym that gets used or an alternative name, then there's a field to enter that as well to make it easier for people to find you in this type of search, because it will match exactly that text based on your organization name or the additional names that you add here as well. That's probably actually a really good segue to going in and looking at your organization details now. So as a user in here, when I go up to the top of the site, I can see there's a My Account menu. If I'm not already logged in, then the only thing it'll show me is a login option in this menu. But since I'm already logged in for our demo here today, I can see there's several options available for me. As an individual donor, I have screens for account settings and my giving history and also a giving profile, which is where I would set my preferences for the different types of categories that I happen to be interested in. But as a nonprofit user, I will see these additional two options here, your organization and add new need. So let's start with your organization. When I click into that, it will take me to the information about my particular nonprofit organization. And this is just a test one set up with some information about the Community Foundation at the moment. Now, to get your organization record in here first, the Community Foundation staff does need to create this organization record for you initially. So for folks that are already on the existing GiveDSM site, we'll copy over all those organization records, of course. But if you're new to this, then you'll need to contact the Community Foundation staff first. They'll create the nonprofit record for you and give you a login, and then you'll be able to log in to make additional edits and updates to this record. So I can see here the information about my organization, the nonprofit name, as I mentioned, the additional name fields. So if you have a shorter version of your name or a different spelling or an acronym, this would be a good place to enter that as well to help donors find you in the search results. I can enter a description, upload a logo file, and provide links to my website and to my Facebook page if I would like as well. And then I can also select what categories I'm involved with or my organization is involved with. So as you can see, there's quite a few test ones here. It's very easy to click Add Category and select any of the additional categories that would be appropriate for your particular organization. Where this is helpful is when you add a new need into the site, the categories that you have populated for your organization will automatically get copied to that new need. Now you can still customize those funding needs to focus them just on specific categories that are relevant, but by setting these general categories for your nonprofit, it makes it a little easier when you start to add multiple needs into the system. I can also see here when I'm looking at my organization record, I can see any existing funding needs that I've already posted here and the status of them. And I can see my organization users as well. Typically on the previous GiveDSM, each organization had one user, but one of the nice things about the new site is you'll be able to have as many different users as you would like in here. And you can invite new folks to add into your organization if you would like as well. Go ahead, Brianne.
Matt, two questions, or if you wanted to scroll up a little bit, I wanted to just reiterate that this site will be really still continue to be limited to 501c3 organizations and charitable charitable sections of government. I'm using the wrong word there, but charitable functions of government. And then there was a question in the chat on the user side of things around the profile will come over, but will the login information remain the same? So if Emma has saved her passwords from GiveDSM 1.0, will she be able to log in with the same credentials under this new site?
Yeah, great question. You will need to set up a new password on the new site. We can copy the email address to set up an account for you, but you have to set up a new password. Best practice with websites is to encrypt the passwords, and the old site does that, which is good. So there's actually no way, we can't see your old password. All we can do is give you an option to set up a new one on the new site.
And I would add that is part of our rollout plan to be sure to communicate with all of those that have current profiles, that information about how to reset your password. So we look forward to sharing that with you as well.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So let's look at adding a new funding need here as well. So if I go up under my account, and actually there's two ways to get to this. I can go to the menu, I can click on add new need, or even on my organization page, I can scroll down to where it says funding needs, and I can click add new need as well. So when I do that, it takes me to the funding need page. And here's where I can set all the options for what will appear on that main page for donors to see. I can select the type of need. I can enter a title for it as well. And I can type in a description amount. I can go choose an image file to use with this as well. And I've just got a sample one we'll grab here. And then I can set a goal amount for my need. Let's just say $10,000 for this one. And then I can also update an amount that's given to date. And with that progress bar on the funding needs, this is one of the key differences between this and the previous GiveDSM site, where there is the ability to show progress towards that specific goal. In the future, you'll want to come back and periodically update the funding amounts or the amounts that have been given, since you may be receiving donations towards these needs from other sources outside of the GiveDSM site as well. And in the future, the site will also provide some email reminders of you to make sure that you're keeping that up to date over time. Go ahead, Brianne.
Yeah, I think that's going to be especially relevant for the capital campaign kinds of postings that we'll see where you're getting major gifts and you're tracking your progress to a pretty significant goal. So thanks for calling that out. And Mike, I think we'll get to your question a little bit later around the kind of data around donations and the information that you'll get. I know the way that our current site works, it's very difficult to understand if a contribution is coming through GiveDSM. So we'll get to that question in a little bit.
So I can fill out additional information about the funding need here. And as you can see, these last four fields, it will provide some suggested amounts. I'll show you what the donor experience is like in a minute here. Donors can give any amount that they would like, ultimately, but you'll see it does suggest some amounts. These amounts are auto-calculated based on the size of the overall goal I entered. So it's suggesting these based on my $10,000 goal. If I had set a larger goal or a smaller goal, it might adjust these suggestions, but you have the ability to override them. So if you would like to change any of these suggested amounts, for the four buttons you'll see in a second here that it shows to donors, you certainly can do that as well. And then I'll click Save Changes, and it'll process for a second here to get that need saved into our database and loaded in the system so donors can go view it. And then it takes me back to my organization page here after it's done that, and I can see that new need has shown up here in the list as well. So if I go back to the main needs page or the opportunities page, I just click on that opportunities link in the upper right. And when I do that, I can see there's my new test need that I've just added has showed up on the system. Now, this is a test site. So a key difference on the live site will be that any new funding needs that are posted do go through an approval process with the Community Foundation staff as well. The way that process works, when you save that need, it will not yet be viewable to the public, but an email gets sent to the Community Foundation team. They will go in and review it and let you know if there's any questions or issues over it, or they'll click the approve button or the approve switch on it. And once they have marked it as approved, then it will show up for the general public to see on the site as well. You will get an email notification as the nonprofit when the Community Foundation need for posting as well. So you'll be able to, it'll come from GiveDSM notifications, but you'll be able to look for that type of notification to let you know once it has been approved. Here for testing purposes today, again, I've got it set just so this one goes live immediately, but in the future you can expect a small delay as that review process happens. Now I can see with this particular need, of course, I can go in and I can look at the project. So when I click on that, it opens up a larger page that lets me see all the information that I've entered here about this particular need. We don't have a logo in the site for this nonprofit at the moment, but if you have your own logo uploaded on your organization profile, it'll show up here as well. And I can see all the information that I've entered about the funding need, including a link to my organization website for more information in here as well. One of the really nice things about the new site is it also provides a custom URL for each of the individual funding needs. And so I'll be able to see up here, again, the URL will be a little bit different once we go live. It'll actually be at givedsm.org, but it will provide a URL up here that you can copy and paste and share with others that will always direct visitors to this particular need. So it's a great way for you to be able to share information and pass on these opportunities to others or to promote them elsewhere as well. Another nice thing with the new site is there also will be a URL that you can use for your nonprofit organization as a whole. And it's a little bit subtle about how you get to it on the site, but the way I did this was looking at my funding need page. I actually clicked on the nonprofit name on here. And when I do that, it provides me a URL that is linked to that organization. And when I use that URL to go to the site, it will always pull up any of the funding needs that I have posted on here. So if you'd like to have a link to be able to, to send potential donors and other folks in your organization or supporters and friends to show any of the funding needs that you've posted that are live on the site, you can copy that URL to use that as well.
Is there a limit on the number of projects that any particular organization could post, Matt?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brianne. There's no technical limit on the site to how many you can post. I'm not sure if you'd offer additional guidance on that from the foundation standpoint for reasonable limits, but
I think reasonable is just the name of the game. I don't think we have any cap that we've decided on, but you know, obviously you don't want to flood the site with just one organization, so we'll probably keep an eye on that. But I think, you know, a great mix of always having that general ask on there, general operating support, and then having several timely projects, and if there's a capital campaign, making sure that that's its own separate kind of post as well. So I just thought I'd ask that. Thanks.
yeah, good question. So the last thing I'd like to show you here, and then we'll hand it back over to you guys, is just the donor experience. So if I go in as a donor and I see something that I would like to give to, I can click the Make a Gift button, either on the main page or on the specific project page. And as you can see, when I do that, it opens up a dialog here. It gives me a couple different options for how I choose to give. If I'm a brand new user, I can add a credit card to make a donation on the site. If I've given before and I'm not already logged in, then it will give me an option to log into the site if I've saved a card, for example, that I want to use again in the future. Or if I'm a fund holder with the Community Foundation, there's a link to give from my Community Foundation fund as well. When I click that link, it'll actually redirect me to the Manage My Fund portal that the foundation uses for any of their fund holders. So it makes it very easy for a donor then to go into their fund and submit a grant request to send to this particular organization or need. From a credit card standpoint, if a donor wants to pay with a credit card, so as a new user, for example, when I click on that, I'll see it gives me options for the dollar amount. This is where those suggested amounts appear, right? So you can control the amounts that appear on these buttons on the configuration page for your specific funding need, but it shows me the ones that I had set up here by default. Or as a donor, I can type in any other amount that I want. It does provide a minimum on that, but any amount at or above that minimum, I'm welcome to do. But if I want to give $100, for example, I click that button, and then as a new user, it'll prompt me to fill out my information. So my credit card information here, my email address. If I would like to create a GiveDSM account, then I need to set up a password as well. If I'd rather check out as a guest and not set up a password and not save my payment information, I can choose that. I can choose to put the gift in honor of as well. And then the Community Foundation does charge a 3.5% fee that covers the credit card and processing costs on donations through the site. As you can see here, as a donor, I always have the option to click that. It'll actually change the amount I pay from $100 to $103.50 to cover that fee as well. Go ahead, Brianne.
I did want to make some clarifying points on kind of how the payment is going to flow a little bit differently than it did in GiveDSM 1.0. And so previously, we'd basically send them to your organization website, and they'd enter all of their funds if they were using a credit card, for instance, that way, or they'd give through their donor advised fund, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to track that as well. The funds will all be flowing through the Community Foundation now. However, This is going to remain a free site for you to post your needs, and we are not charging our admin fees. So the only fees that are coming in here are the 3.5%, which is your typical credit card fee that you'd see really in many different nonprofit organizations. So just want to clarify that we're not charging, our foundation fees. That will be waived for projects on here. So we wanted to be clear how we communicated that. And the intent there is not for us to take donor information, but to streamline the experience so it can be as user-friendly as possible. And we're going to get the money quickly to you. And Sarah, I think you had shared, we'll be cutting checks from GiveDSM contributions or ACH or however you have your funding with us set up on a weekly basis. So those funds will go out, I believe, every Tuesday if you're getting contributions through the community foundation. So it'll come from a check from us, but you will have donor information as well. And Matt, I know we're running kind of short on time, but if there's a way that you can see kind of that donor data or show how they'll track to Mike's question, what has been the usage on this site or on this how successful has this funding need been perhaps on GiveDSM? You'll be able to see that there, and there is also an opportunity for donors to be anonymous, as we'd said. So.
Yep, and that's actually a great segue to the very last thing I hadn't shown yet. But if you go back to your organization profile, you can see your list of funding needs. You'll always be able to see in the progress bar, the progress coming through the site and any updates that you've made on it as well for progress towards that goal amount. But I can also go into this specific funding need and I can click on the See Donors link here. And of course, I just created that need. There's no donors yet for it, but as donors appear, you'll be able to get their information in here, their name, their email, the dollar amount and the date that they donated as well. All of that will be available for you. And just like the button says, that you also can download a CSV file. If you click that link, it'll send you an email with that attached file. And the idea with that is if you're using a donor database or donor management system, it makes it very easy for you to import that data into those types of systems, particularly to get new donor information into your system as well. And that's it for the quick tour. I apologize that took a few minutes, but I'll hand it back over to you guys.
Really helpful. Thanks, Matt. Sarah, I'll invite you to talk a little bit more about the marketing highlights. Beth, you stole our thunder with the URL. So that's something we're really excited about. Go ahead, Sarah.
I just want to thank Matt for all he's done and the Given team to bring this to life, and to those who are joining us today who've been helping us with the testing. Really appreciate the feedback and the feedback through all of GiveDSM 1.0, so we knew things like the unique URL that we're so excited to have now. So from a marketing standpoint, we are thrilled to be able to offer this to our community, especially this year. This is a great opportunity, as we've heard from donors, about we want to give, we're called to give, but we don't know where the needs are. GiveDSM is an excellent place for our community to go to. As Matt alluded to, GiveDSM will launch the new site on October 15th. We will be doing outreach with all of you and our other nonprofit partners to encourage updates to your project profiles through early November. And early November, we will then begin publicizing to our fund holders and the general public. We have Facebook ads planned, we have print ads planned, we have a media plan. We really want to push this out during the year-end giving season to both the public and then very extensively to our donor advised fund holders as well. So know that we are here to support you in promoting this site so that the community can learn about your needs. And on a personal note, thank you for all you have done this year. I know you always are hard at work and always making our community better together, as we say, but goodness, this year has really shined a light on all you do. I know we're running a little short on time for questions, so feel free to use the email address we put in the chat or reach out to Brianne or I directly. But Brianne, I will pass off to you for the final closing comments.
Sure. I just wanted to reiterate that, Sarah. I think we have evolved this site based on your feedback, and the partnership of our developers has been amazing. And so, we need to continue to understand what are the pain points, what are the things you're loving about the site, what successes have you been finding? The more information that we can have from our nonprofit partners about how you're using and benefiting benefiting from the site, the more enhancements we can make, and we can better serve your needs. So that's always our goal, to be a partner. And I just encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity if you're new to the platform, and take some time to really look through what funding needs you might already have out there, and kind of refine and build new projects as we do this final push in November. Thanks. So thanks for being with us, and I'll leave the session open a little bit if you have some questions. We can send out a recap addressing any of those for those who aren't able to stay. So thank you, Matt and Sarah. And if you have any questions that weren't addressed, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll try and get them to you for the follow-up. Thanks again. Have a great day.